next president? Who deserves your vote? One of the best advice on leadership that I ever got was from a pastor in Hawaii named Pastor Wayne Cordero. And he taught me how a senior pastor should pick leaders in ministry. He said it wasn't just about knowledge or gift or ability or qualification. He said, pick people that you can imagine going on vacation with, because that's who Jesus picked. He picked people that he could spend all day and all night with, and even go on holidays with. And we don't just mean holidays like, go to Disneyland. He literally went to the holy days of God with these 12 men for 3 years in a row. And there were 3 holidays that they had to go to in Jerusalem. Now, how does this relate to the presidency? Many years ago, my grandpa Cioccolanti was out at a shooting range, and he saw a young man who was holding a really good-looking gun. So he walked over there and spoke to him and complimented him on his gun. This young man was very courteous and handed the gun over to my grandfather to examine, and he took a good look at it and handed it back. And he just walked away from that, and he said to his friend, boy, that young man was such a pleasant and a polite young man. His friend said, did you know who that was? And he said, no. He said, that was Donald Trump Jr. See, one of the most common sense ways to decide right now who to vote for, one of the easiest ways to decide who should be your next president, is to ask yourself, which family can you imagine spending time with? Which family can you imagine being your friend? Trump's family or the Clinton family? Who can you imagine going on vacation with? The Trump family or the Clinton family? I think that's one of the things that gets lost in all of the debate and the fighting and all that. You need to use some common sense. Americans right now are blinded to the simple truth because it is in a civil war. When people fight, when people just want to win, that's all they want. They only want to win. They make selfish decisions. They make mistakes that cost other people. And they tend to forget the most important issues. During America's last Civil War, on the 19th of November, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address to a divided nation. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. Further down, he said, it is rather for us to be here, dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to the cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. That this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Brothers and sisters, the concept of government of the people, by the people, and for the people has become government of the banks, by the banks, and for the banks. Do you want proof of it? How about the speaking fees of Hillary Clinton from Wall Street banks? She's gotten very rich by being a politician. How about the bailouts from the Obama and Clinton administration, which were for the banks, not the folks? The banks have gotten rich from Clinton being in office, from her being a career politician. This is one of the distinctions, is Trump has not been a career politician. Yes, You might be rolling the dice with him, but why not roll the dice for him? And that's a metaphor I give since they were debating in Las Vegas. How about this? The pay for play, the quote-unquote donations. In any other place would call that bribery. But in American democracy, it's called a donation from Saudi Arabia and Qatar to the Clinton Foundation. After which, Saudi Arabia had over 1,000% increase in the American supply of weapons, which they immediately used to murder civilians and overthrow Yemen. You know, if you're the police and you supply criminals with weapons, you can't genuinely say, vote for me, fund me, because I'm going to fight crime. No, you created the criminals. You are the problem. In America, career politicians are the problem. And Trump is the only one at the risk of his life and political career saying there ought to be term limits on everybody, not just on the president, but on congressmen and senators as well. I believe that this was Donald Trump's best debate. Even though there was not much new, it was presented again for the remaining voters who may not have been following the issues. Hillary Clinton was also the same, very plastic, stilted, and untrustworthy. What I dislike most are her lawyer tactics. This is sending out cheap shots and pivots, twisting words, which in any other context, nobody would talk that way. But a lawyer and a politician can get away with it. She threw a cheap shot that she has to know is a lie when she says Donald Trump is against women. I mean, his wife is a beautiful, successful woman. His daughter Ivanka is a beautiful, successful woman. How can anybody believe that Donald Trump is against women when those are the women that surround him? Then she said something that she has to know is a lie, that Trump called all Mexicans criminals and rapists. And this is a politician doing her best, not helping you, the folks, but scoring points for herself. This is called now identity politics, where you can just call people sexist, racist, and somehow that gives you points. But we live in reality. Now, his vice presidential candidate, Mike Pence, who is a genuine born-again Christian, has already debunked this lie that Trump said all Mexicans are criminals. And he said to Tim Kaine, you forget the part where he says many Mexicans are good people. In fact, let me give you the quote. The full quote by Trump, made on the 16th of June, 2015, is this. When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending the best. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. The rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. But I speak to border guards, and they're telling us what we're getting. That's the full quote. Nobody who's ever confronted the problem of illegal immigration or has suffered crime at the hands of an illegal immigrant, including people who have died, have lost family members, can misinterpret Mr. Donald Trump's statement. It is a statement of pure common sense. Every country in the world, if it wants to be sovereign, must maintain some borders. It's like cells in your body. You have a membrane so that it doesn't let everything in. If a membrane of your cell lets everything outside to come in, it will die. You cannot do that. You cannot have a nation. You cannot have a nation without protecting its borders. Clinton, like a typical lawyer, gave no straight answer when asked straight questions. I watched her pivot on issues like the millions of dollars given from Muslim countries to the Clinton Foundation. And Trump asked her very plainly, well, if you care so much about the poor and you care about women's rights, you're attacking me about hating women. What about you? You take money from the countries that are most guilty of the worst human right abuses, especially against women. Where in Saudi Arabia, a woman cannot drive, cannot appear in public without a male companion, cannot do many, many things. And you're saying you're a feminist and take money, millions of dollars from this. And he asks, why don't you give the money back? Like a lawyer, she just obfuscated. She gave no straight answer when asked about mass illegal immigration. She gave no straight answer about anything. What I like about Trump, even though he fumbles, he makes mistakes, he's unfiltered, but what I like about him is I like a person who answers the question straight. And Trump just speaks his mind. And some people don't like that. Some people like sweet talk, honey coming, dripping out of their mouths, but you need to look at a person's fruit, not just talk. And Hillary Clinton's fruit is that she's been in politics as a career politician for over 30 years, and she hasn't done any of the things that she's promising she's going to deliver. And if she were to become president, it's not going to happen. It's going to become worse. And Bible prophecy, I fear, is painting dark days ahead for America. And so I pray that by God's mercy, that you would have some more days of revival and days of peace before the end comes. What was prophetically significant about the third debate and the last debate were really not much, other than a couple of things. From a biblical, end-time, prophetic point of view, I saw two things and I heard two things. Number one, Trump repeating something he said in his second debate. He said in the third debate, mass migration is the greatest Trojan horse of all time. And you need to go and look at my previous video on YouTube about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse prophesied by Donald Trump. I believe that's one of the most important presidential videos that we've uploaded. So that was prophetically significant. He said it not only once, but twice. So that's a confirmation in the Bible. 2 or 3 times, 2 or 3 witnesses is confirmation. So we are witnessing the Trojan horse entering the gates of Troy. And the Trojan horse was able to defeat Troy and do what 10 years of brutal, front-on, confrontation, war could not do. It's a deception. The Trojan horse is a type of deception. It's the greatest metaphor in the Western history of deception. That's what the Revelation 6 horses are. They're horses of deceptions. They're deceivers. And this mass, undocumented, illegal, and Muslim migration. We're not against Muslim, but young, military age Muslim men. What are they doing coming by the thousands? What happened to the Christians? What happened to the women? What happened to the children? Trojan horse. Western world, Trojan horse. That was very prophetic that Donald Trump emphasized that again. Another thing that was prophetically significant was Hillary blaming Russia again. That's 3 out of 3. 3 debates, in all 3, she decided she was going to provoke hostility with Russia. Chris Wallace asked her about her WikiLeaks emails. He quoted that she had said to Goldman Sachs, a private Wall Street bank. I don't think Donald Trump has been paid any money to speak to Wall Street banks. So follow the money. She said to Goldman Sachs that she wants hemispheric market with no borders. This is a quote from her speech, for which she was paid $225,000. America, that's the price of a house. Has any of you been paid for a speech that amount of money? That's not called payment, it's called bribery. Goldman Sachs didn't give that and expect nothing back. So she says in her own words, revealed by WikiLeaks, my dream is a hemispheric common market with open trade and open borders, sometime in the future with energy that is as green, as sustainable as we can get it, powering growth and opportunity for every person in the hemisphere. So she said it right there in her own words, open borders. Anybody living down in the southern borders of America know the problem that brings, including drugs, rape, murder. Real Americans, real lives. have been hurt. Hillary Clinton wants open borders. Is that what you want? She deflected. She didn't answer, just like a good lawyer. She deflected her emails and started blaming Russians. Trump replied very quickly that was a great pivot from the fact that she wants open borders. Hillary said, oh no, the most important question that needs to be asked, and she must have rehearsed this, she was waiting to say this, the most important question that needs to be asked is if Trump will renounce the Russian hacking. Well, no, the most important point in this presidency is not who hacked Hillary's email, as much as the content of that email. And there are far more important issues than that, Mrs. Clinton. Our lives are at stake in this next presidency. Not only in America, but I believe it will affect the whole Western world. It will affect Europe, and it will probably affect Australia as well. The three issues that are more important than who hacked Hillary Clinton's emails. Number one is nuclear war. I'm going to bring a video about World War III for you to understand how, if World War III were to start today, how it would probably play out. Nuclear war. Russia has already said that if Hillary Clinton wins, there's going to be war. They're obviously not choosing war. They're not starting war. They're not initiating the war. They're saying the person, based on the intelligence that they know, and they know Clinton well. Clinton's been to Russia. She said so. She says she knows Putin. Trump says he doesn't know Putin, but would like to get along with Putin. Russia has said, knowing what they know, there will be World War III. And the Bible predicts it. I was just hoping it wouldn't be so soon. Number two issue, more important than who hacked Hillary Clinton's email, the federal Supreme Court. Especially for us who call ourselves Christians, there are issues that are going to be decided by whoever will be appointed as the balance of power in your Supreme Court. Right now you got 8, there's got to be 9, and some of them are going to retire. Issues that need to be decided include gay marriage, abortion, government-sponsored destruction of family values and Christian values. Read through any of the documents of the Founding Fathers, you know that America was founded on Christianity. Not like Obama says, on any religion, every religion. No, it wasn't Islam. And they came to establish a place where they could worship without state control. That means without state interference. No restriction. Doesn't mean you can't talk about the Bible, you can't pray as a politician. No. No interference from the government. The Supreme Court may seriously change for the next however many decades are left for America. Seriously change your entire culture and legal system. Number three, more important issue than who hacked Hillary Clinton's email is the federal budget. Right now you're in $20 trillion deficit. And Trump says it's because of bad deals. That means you can negotiate better deals than that. We know people can. We know businesses can. And Trump's got the reputation and the experience, the expertise to do that. But you got $20 trillion debt. You're living off borrowed money. Any household that lives off of borrowed money on credit card, they're in trouble. They might pretend they're not, but they are in trouble because of interest payment. Now, your federal budget not only is in debt, but 60% of federal spending is on entitlements. This attitude that people owe me is going to be the undoing of America because it was the undoing of the Roman Empire. You can't have a bunch of people stealing from other people their money and have a peaceful, harmonious society. And the government will only be able to steal for so long. Right? It's a kind of theft. It goes against the 8th of 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not steal. Even if the government steals, it is theft and God will judge. You know, for the first time, if you understand the issues that are at stake, a potential nuclear war, a potential rewriting of the Constitution, a reinterpretation of the Constitution of the United States of America, and this just runaway deficit any one of those would be serious issues that could cause the fall of an empire. So serious is the matter at hand that for the first time, a minister of the gospel of such reputation like Franklin Graham has had to come out publicly to speak to the American people and the American voter and explain the issue. If your pastor is not dealing with this in your church, maybe he's afraid, maybe he has no opinion on it. But Franklin Graham, the son of Billy Graham, wrote this on his Facebook. A lot of people are slamming evangelicals for supposedly giving Donald J. Trump a pass. That's simply not true. No one is giving him a pass. I'm certainly not. And I've not met an evangelical yet who condones his language or inexcusable behavior from over a decade ago. However, he has apologized to his wife, his family, and to the American people for this. He has taken full responsibility. This election isn't about Donald Trump's behavior from 11 years ago or Hillary Clinton's recent missing emails, lies, and false statements. This election is about the Supreme Court and the justices that the next president will nominate. Evangelicals are going to have to decide which candidate they trust to nominate men and women to the court who will defend the Constitution and support religious freedoms. My prayer is that Christians will not be deceived by the liberal media about what is at stake for future generations. The left don't understand this because they are mostly secular humanists. They're unable to appreciate such a powerful virtue as forgiveness because they don't believe in a God who can forgive our every trespass. They're under the delusion that you must be perfect or else. And this is exactly what I said in several videos about the end-time deception. This false perfectionist standard is not from God. God is into redemption. That's why I say trust in Jesus. Franklin Graham finishes and says, either you live up to their warped standards or they'll throw you under the bus. You know, the left is not even loyal to its own. Hillary Clinton can throw Bernie Sanders under the bus. Those who supported him should stick with your virtue of not empowering the bankers, not a government of the banks, by the banks, for the banks. That's over. That should be enough. Let's drain the swamp, Trump said. Let's drain the swamp of corruption. You've got a chance to do this. And we outside of America are rooting for you. Drain the swamp. The evil, the corruption, giving each other money between politicians and bankers. This can be drained. Term limits can limit the politicians' power and the ability of people to pay them off and buy them and put them in their pocket. Christians, this election, if this is my last word to you about this, if World War III were to start and we don't have any more YouTube, this is my last word to you. This election is about war, crooked money, and killing babies. You choose. If you cast your vote for Hillary, you will be voting for a family with whom, I dare say, if you cross them, you would be afraid to get on the same plane with. You will be voting for a family that you would not want to be your neighbor or your friends. If you allow Hillary Clinton to win, the warmongers win, the bankers win, crooked money wins, Wall Street wins, and the most vulnerable Americans lose. Because surely there will be more government-sponsored abortions. More babies will die at taxpayer expense. Christians, if you vote for Donald J. Trump, you will get a man whose family you would enjoy being friends with and you would enjoy going on holidays with. My most important presidential video is probably not this one. It's the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, prophesied by Donald Trump. Please, after you watch this, go and watch that one. No matter who wins, I have faith in a God that is transcendent, that is higher than man's schemes. And I believe that Jesus is divine. So please, don't get left behind.